Howdy, it is time to shock, alienate, and horrify all five of my viewers by saying that if you're a gun control advocate, you should also advocate for open borders. I know this is really extreme. Um, don't think of these as political buzzwords. I'm going to define what I mean here. By gun rights, I mean the human right to keep and bear arms. So I'm not talking about the Constitution. I'm not talking about your local gun control rules. I'm talking about a human right, and I mean that as universal. So everybody, to me, all across the globe, if they have the same human right to keep and bear arms, their government can recognize or violate that right. Every government violates that right to one extent or the other. Okay, even in the U.S., obviously we have tons of gun rights violations. It varies even within the union. By arms, because the human right to keep and bear arms. By arms, I mean every weapon. So I'm talking about attack helicopters and missiles and tanks and all that stuff. It doesn't phase me when someone, well, should somebody be able to own a bazooka? Well, yeah, if they can afford it, it's their right. I don't believe it's a privilege. Uh, and I believe moreover, I believe it's universal. It's my right as an American to have an AR-15. Well, no, it's my right as a human. Whether I'm an American or not has nothing to do with it. It just has to do with what kind of penalties I'm going to face from whoever happens to rule over me. Uh, by open borders, I don't mean what the Democrats call open borders, which is where, yeah, we're gonna have border control and everything, but we're gonna have little programs and stuff like the Dreamers, and we're gonna encourage people. We're gonna encourage the best and the brightest to come here, and there's gonna be all kinds of government programs, and there's gonna be a path to citizenship and all that nonsense. I mean, just open borders. So just like the border between Texas and Louisiana, you cross, you don't get messed with. You want to live in Texas, have a job in Louisiana, that's perfectly fine. Not a big deal. It's cool. Um, so I'm not saying, oh, go vote Democrat and go for open borders, because the Democrats don't want open borders any more than the Republicans want open borders. They want to control the border in different ways and to their political advantage. So I will acknowledge right now that the concern that you might have as a gun rights advocate, that, well, if we had, quote unquote open borders, or if we change the border policy, well, the Democrats are going to try to import people that agree with their uh, belief about gun control. We might end up with fewer gun rights if you crazy maniacs like you get the open borders. Yeah, actually, that's possible. I'll give another example of a serious danger that is really there. Let's say that we all get our wish, and there's no more gun restrictions. There's no more gun control at all. No more, like, literally, uh, you can carry concealed, open, and nothing will happen to you. You can go to California and have your AR-15 with a perfectly normal magazine and a short barrel and a little vertical foregrip on a 10-inch barrel. Nothing on it. It's completely legal. Well, there's a danger in that. I mean, there's a danger in people having guns. Little arguments can escalate. You can have school shootings. These things exist. These are real dangers of gun rights, no doubt. But you accept them, right? I mean, it's possible, but as Thomas Jefferson said, it's in Latin when you usually see it. I'm not going to try to pronounce it. I prefer the tempest of liberty to the peace of servitude. And if you're a gun rights advocate, you get that with gun rights. You are willing to take that chance. But generally, when it comes to borders, you're not willing to take that chance. It, that doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense to me. As a gun rights advocate, um, I don't believe that gun control is here to protect me. It's here to protect the government. Protecting me is the excuse it uses to convince me to support it. I view border control the same way. Now, I recognize that there is the chance that a rapid change in demographics and voting ability could change the face of the representatives and make the slide towards totalitarianism faster. I think we're already headed that direction. Okay, we can go slower, we can go faster. All you're doing by saying please protect me government is slowing one area down. You're not stopping it. Okay, they're still running their schemes, they're still doing their little machinations, however you pronounce that word. They're still moving towards more gun control. In fact, to me, when you use that argument that, well, they might change the gun laws, you're actually undercutting one of your other statements, which I'm assuming you make as a gun rights advocate. I will not comply. Okay, that's if you are a gun rights advocate, that is like your credo. I will not comply. So it doesn't matter if you go through all the steps. It doesn't matter if you change the demographics. I'm not going to comply. Oh, but you know what? I want you to protect me from a change in demographics because you might change the laws. But if you're not going to comply, that change doesn't matter, right? It shouldn't. So you got to kind of make up your mind on that one. Now, I don't know that I have a great response to allay your fears. In fact, I acknowledge it's a risk. But what you're doing by saying, well, we need borders to protect us from rapid changes that could abrogate even more of our liberties, you're making the same protect us government argument that gun control advocates are making. You're just making it about borders. Okay? If you want to advocate for, better voter ID and all that other stuff that you think will really make the difference, okay, go ahead. I personally don't have any faith in the electoral process. Okay? I have faith in the weird, ungovernable process. And I think that actually that is illustrated by the past couple of years, with protests and, riotous protests and all that. It does cause the government to move the needle a little bit. Okay. So the government is very much afraid of a lack of compliance. It's not afraid of you showing up and writing letters and begging it to change. It's not afraid of you saying, hey, we need this policy to protect us from this other policy. That's not a fear for it. That maintains government power. I'm talking about reducing government power. As a gun rights advocate, as any kind of human rights advocate of any sort, you should jump at the chance to limit government power. Now, I think that I touched on it in this. I've done 1,000 takes. I think that I touched on it in this one. I'm not sure. There is the 100-mile border zone. Within that 100-mile border zone, they can search your person, your vehicle. They can take your effects. Thanks also to some of the other stuff that came with drug laws, drug prohibition fight, civil asset forfeiture. But within that 100-mile border zone, which is part of an immigration law, okay, this isn't some far-fetched thing. It was 1959 Immigration Act, I think. I'd have to look it up. I'm not redoing the video to look that up. But the 100-mile border zone is part of that immigration control, because the reasoning is, well, yeah, we have this border, but they might sneak across. We really need to control the border. So 100 miles. Go look at a map and see how much the United States that covers up. You probably live within that 100-mile border zone. And that means that they can pull you over, they can search, they find the gun that they decide they don't like, and thanks to drug prohibition, they can just say, you know what, we think this is connected to drug trade, and they confiscate it. And that is civil asset forfeiture. And that's one of those other little laws here to protect you. They're just trying to protect you from those mean old drugs. They're so dangerous. You have to prove that your gun is not connected to the drug trade. Good luck. That's going to be a lawyer. That's going to be thousands of dollars. And yeah, it's probably not going to happen to you. You're probably you know, law-abiding citizen, and when the cops pull you over, you put your hands on the wheel, and you're nice and you're polite. It's not going to happen to you. Uh, you probably need to look up some stories because it can happen to you. And every time you give the government power to protect you from something, they're looking at a way to use it to just grab more power for themselves, not for you. Okay? Do you really believe that your least favorite politician in the world got into political office to help? Okay, really to help? Or do you think they got there for their own power? Okay. Now, your favorite politician, you probably believe differently. I don't. So this is a different thing for me. This is, I think they're all in there for their own power. And the very few that get in there to help, okay, maybe they do help or maybe they hurt. Maybe there are some gun control advocates that really want to help and they think that gun control is really going to help. They're still wrong. They're still violating my rights. I still don't agree with them. And I recognize your fears. I recognize the dangers. But I'm pointing out to you the hazards of having border control. And I think that just looking at the demands from other states and how gun control advocates will talk about our open borders between the states, they will talk about that is really making it hard to control. That should cue you in that, you know, maybe I need to think a little harder about the border control issue. Maybe I need to take that risk from liberty, that danger, and give up a little bit of that safety.